Welcome to Wealthy Women's Conversation Podcast, where we celebrate the incredible journeys of everyday amazing women who are building their own path to wealth and financial security on their own terms. I am your host, Treshelle Williams, and I am so thrilled to have you join us today. Here on Wealthy Women Conversations Podcast, we are all about breaking the mold and rewriting the rules when it comes to creating wealth. Are you an amazing woman that's 40 years old or older who's looking to build financial freedom? Then this is a podcast for you. Our goal each week is to be a beacon of hope and inspiration, no matter your age or money experience level. On this podcast, you will hear from amazing women who have overcome obstacles, defied societal expectations, and created their own version of wealth, success, strength, and resilience. Now, get ready for a heartwarming, relatable, fun, and empowering conversation that will leave you feeling motivated to take action. Together, we'll shatter limitations, challenge conventional thinking, and redefine what it means to be a wealthy woman in today's world. So, let's tune in to today's conversation. Welcome back, everybody. Hello. I am so excited to chat with you all today. It is our wrapping up season 1. I'm so excited. We've gotten through a full season of this podcast, and while I absolutely love it, it has definitely challenged me. It has challenged me, but that's okay, because I truly believe it is for a purpose, and that those who are able to catch on and get the insight and get the information will be able to take it and flourish with it. Today is a different topic. As I stated in our previous episode, that the whole month, this last month of this particular season, it's all me. So y'all get all of me, and I get to share with you, and you get to consider some things. And we will be launching our new season real soon. But I get to share some insights and some information. And most times this insight and information is from a personal standpoint. Most of you who have been following for a while, be it in here on the podcast or in Wealthy Women Conversations on Facebook, or doing some kind of retreat or exercise with me outside of social media, you know that I, for the most part, will only use personal stories to share and give you insight and information, mostly because I got enough growth and stuff that's happening with me that I don't need to share my clients' information. Now, they can share their own story, and they can share their own inner work and all the things that's happening. And so today is showing up because I have had an awesome, one of my accountability partners and I are having a massive, amazing discussion around the space of understanding the connection to personal growth and wealth, like personal growth and wealth. What's the connection? And for those of you who are in this space where you are either first generation, not living paycheck to paycheck, or you're first generation college student, or you're first generation who is coming outside of the scarcity space or the financial strapped space, this is going to be big for you. Those of you who have been and grown up with money all your life, this might not matter as much. I'm not sure how this works, but I definitely know from working with enough women who are coming out of this space, and definitely from the Gen X space, who have watched their parents work their ass off, who have watched their parents can't really grow them up, which is one of the big issues with Gen Xers, is because we have been in spaces where we have had to be the adult as a child, and that has come from the space of our parents having to be all things and not having the financial acumen or the ability to do all of the things that many parents that are currently able to do for their kids. But they were working their tails off for us to have stuff, and so we ended up growing up on our own. And so what ends up happening is we are first generation doing it different. And so a lot of work comes into this personal development space, the internal work, the work of mindset awareness, and the work of, guess what? That was what was happening then. It might not actually roll or fly today. And that's a huge thing. And so I wanted to just give you some things to consider for this particular episode about how the connection to your development is so key to your financial success. And without really being, well, no, I'm gonna just give you all the things. Just why not? Why not just give it all? Just give it all. So for me, I grew up in a house where my mom was very, very much so active in all of our stuff, but she also worked her tail off. I remember her going from multiple jobs. She had a stable 9-to-5 job in the school district, and then she would go and do odds and ends so that we can do all the other things that her kids desire to do. I was a traveler at a very early age. In my high school space, I had a passport. No one in my family had a passport. And I was traveling. I was all over the country. And I was also very much so traveling internationally at that time. And so my mom wanted to make sure that there was nothing that I would ask for, any of the other siblings would ask for, that she would not provide. And what that meant for her was she had to work her ass off, and she did. And while we still didn't have all the things, we definitely, what we would ask for something, and we didn't ask a lot because we were very clear that she was working hard to give us the things that we asked for. But when we would ask for it, she would make sure that she would get it for us. And that's a whole mindset. That's a whole space. My siblings and I grew up not asking for stuff. We did not ask for a lot because we watched our mom work hard, which then created a space where we as adults don't ask for much, right? And so there's a lot of personal development that has to go on with correcting the space of the ask. I can tell you really, really truthfully that I have engaged with kids who I thought, what the hell is wrong with y'all? Like, y'all doing the most, because they were asking for things. And I think that they should have been asking for things, but because of my own upbringing and belief system around, you don't ask, I would challenge them to not ask. But why would I not want them to ask? They should be able to ask, right? So I've had to do a lot of self-development, and many of you might have as well. Some of you even have a hard time asking for a raise. Some of you have a hard time asking for people in the environments at your jobs to treat you a particular way, whereas others will automatically ask for what they want, right? One of the examples that I noticed today is that these amazing young, not millennials, the Gen Z, what are they? The Z people, the ones, not the millennials. The millennials now, they got their own stuff to deal with, right? It used to just be, we used to call it the millennials. It ain't the millennials, y'all. It is the folks, the millennials kids who are now basically saying, I don't have to work that hard. I don't have to do that. I don't want to do. And they have a very clear space of saying, this is how I am going to work. This is how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to ask for what I want, which is also very interesting because you'll see a lot of them at this particular stage being hairstylists and in the service industry, and they're asking you to pay tooth and nail for their services. Why? Because they didn't grow up in a house where they could not ask, right? And so here's the thing. In order for you, if you are a Gen Xer, which is my ideal client, you probably are wondering, how do I get to the space and live the life that I desire to live? And a lot of it has to do with self-development and you being able to really dig into understanding why you do the things you do, or why you ask for the things you ask for, or why you don't ask for the things that you ask for, or why you expect things to not work out, or all these different things. There's a whole bunch of different things. And I am coming to realize that it is really our childhood and dealing with the things that we've experienced and the belief systems that are deeply embedded in us that we don't even realize that are there. And if we can't uproot those things and rewrite that code that we have internally, it's very difficult for us to then have wealthy spaces. Now, what I am not saying is that people who are Gen Xers are not flourishing and doing, I'm not saying that. I'm also not saying that everybody had this experience. What I am saying is that if you grew up in a space of scarcity, if you grew up in a space of poverty, if you grew up in a space where you're the first generation to do financial things or to go off to school, many of us who are first generational doing any of these things it means that we are in a space where we have mindsets around certain things, and it can be a little bit more challenging for us. And so you'll see someone who is rocking things out and you're wondering, how y'all get that? How you not ask for that? How you, and then, and you're like, but you didn't do, wait, hold on, right? And so I just want you all to understand it is hand in hand specifically for this particular group of people, which are my people, right? Your personal development, your ability to unpack all of the things that were internally embedded in you, even though you didn't ask for it, you're going to have to deal with that. You're going to have to show up and engage with that so that you can then really get into a space where you can win financially. So many things are connected to our financial space, and it typically is in the space of what we believe to be truth. And I would have to say, working through a whole lot of mindset things. Like, I can say a thing, I know the words to say. That does not necessarily mean, hear me, doesn't mean that I believe it to my core. I can say I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am whole, I am financially stable. And then you can see a bill and you're like, how am I going to pay that? Right? You can say things all day long, but it is rewriting the code, the stuff that's internally in you, that is really what will either help you move forward or will have you in a space where you really, 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 really struggle to financially hit particular markers. I'll give you an example. I do quite a few free workshops to help people literally just get the basic information to get started. And even with that basic information, you can go and do great things with it. Here's the thing. Many people who are Gen Xers who grew up in this spaces of scarcity, spaces of poverty, first generation, all of those things, if you in those spaces, many times you don't understand why, even though you have a desire to have wealth that is flourishing and you're doing all these great and amazing things, you don't understand why it's hard for you to get there. The reality is that it's all the mindset stuff. And so I couldn't have told you, if you would have asked me 5 years ago that you have undealt with trauma or things that are holding you back internally, I would have been like, huh? What are you talking about, honey? I had a good time with my childhood. You're right. And I did. And that's the interesting thing, is that many people think because you had a horrible childhood if you have trauma. That's not true. Trauma can happen from a lot of things. I'll give you another example of that. I'm watching TikTok and different things, and people are doing these like things with their kids, and they scare them, or they do some joke or whatever, and the kid starts crying or screaming or whatever. They're having a good time from their perspective, but they don't realize that could potentially be a further trauma that child is going to have to overcome later on in life. And while we laugh and joke about it many times, it doesn't mean that it's not impacting them. And it doesn't mean that child isn't having a great life. It's very much so. But that instance could potentially be something that is now a part of their code, and they don't realize it, right? And I'm not saying people need to be perfect as parents or all that stuff. I'm saying I had a great time as a kid. I did not feel unloved. I felt very much so loved. I didn't feel like I couldn't ask, even though I didn't ask. I could ask, and every time I did ask, I got everything I asked for. I just didn't. And it was mostly because of the trauma side of things, of just life and things that are happening, right? So I couldn't have, placed it as a, traumatic space, but many things were traumatic. Many of those are causing and have caused me to pause and feel some kind of way. And it's not that I remember my husband asking me, do you feel some kind of way about your childhood, about this or that? And I was just like, no, what do you mean? And it wasn't that he was trying to be mean. It was just that he was asking that typically things like this would cause another circumstance. And so for me, I was like, no. But what I realized is that you can have had a perceived great time as a kid and still walked out with traumatic things that have happened. And I did. And I now walk through the space where I absolutely honor and love all the things that my mom did. Her circumstances were her circumstances because of the things that she grew up in, right? And I don't blame her for that. While I also realized that it also created certain codes in me, and certain things in me that doesn't serve me or my highest good, right? And all of that to say that without dealing with your internal stuff, it's very, very challenging to flourish financially. Now, let's talk about what that means. Flourishing financially means that you are being able to hit the marks that you desire to hit financially. And many times the marks that we desire to hit is going to require certain things from us. And what is required, many times we have a hard time getting to because of the codes that are inside of us. And so if that means that you have to show up and be present or be active or be consistent or ask for a sale, if you have codes in you to not ask, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to ask people, right? So if you have a whole setup where you don't ask for stuff, to now be an entrepreneur and now have to ask for a sale, you're going to have some struggle. You see how the problem with that, how it is literally in a space where your desire and your past is in confrontation with each other. And so you have to deal with that. You have to find out that that's a thing. You have to realize that it is a thing and that you have to then rewrite the code for the thing. And I mean, I've dealt with that. I've been married going on 17, 18 years, somewhere around there. And I would probably say one of the things that has been the biggest issue for me is realizing that I wouldn't ask my husband for anything. I'm going to do it myself. I'm not asking for anything. And that's a whole problem, which also then set my husband up to never have me ask for anything. So he always considered that I didn't want anything. And so because he considered I didn't want anything, he wouldn't necessarily do a thing. And so then I feel some kind of way, right? Well, all of that is the same thing, either on your job, in your businesses, with your clients. All of that matters. And so I'm using those as examples so that you can understand where I'm going. If you don't understand your personal code and your own personal internal system and the traumas and the different things that you have set up, you may miss how to really financially win. And it could be a whole thing. And someone else might be on the side without having all of those things, and they are rocking it out. And you're like, how did I miss that? It's because of your internal stuff. And so they go hand in hand. It is very challenging as a Gen Xer, as a first generation college graduate, as a first generation person who has made over six figures. It's a first generation of getting out of the financial spaces that were paycheck to paycheck, or being the first of doing a lot of things. Not that my mom didn't mom became a business owner and did very, very well. But what we did as a kid is very different, right? She worked really, really, really hard. And so being in those spaces as a Gen Xer, it is so very important for you to understand that, and not to beat yourself up, but to give yourself grace, to walk it out, to ask for support, to understand support is important, and to also put yourself in a space that would allow for you to win, even though it feels unnatural. It's not the norm. It feels like you're doing something outside of what feels good to you in that season. Just giving yourself that space. I know that my financial success has all to do with my ability to give myself grace, to be able to see what's holding me back, me processing things a particular way. And all of that stuff stems from the code that's inside of me. And so I am working diligently to deal with my internal person so that I can rewrite my code and give myself new commands and new insight and new information so that it can produce the out result of flourishing financially, right? So I'm so happy that I'm able to share that with you. Hopefully you got something from that. It makes you consider, it makes you think about something a little bit differently. And if so, awesome. Share with me what you receive, what's the highlight, and let's have a conversation, honey. If you haven't done so, join us in our Facebook group at Facebook Wealthy Women Conversations. And if you also are looking to get some insight and some help and some support, I can absolutely do exactly that. I would love to chat with you. You can also get a free consultation call and click one of them links down below in the description in the stuff to get you where you need to go. And otherwise, have an amazing financially prosperous rest of your day. And I will see you on the other side. Have a great one, y'all. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Wealthy Women Conversation Podcast. We hope you found inspiration and wisdom as we sat at the table to grow and learn with our amazing guest who has paved the way for her own financial freedom. Remember, you hold the power to create your own version of wealth, success, and fulfillment. No matter where you are on your journey, it's never too late to take control of your financial future. Keep seeking knowledge, exploring opportunities, and embracing your unique strengths. Together, we're challenging the norms, shattering limitations, and redefining what it means to be a wealthy woman in today's world. Join us for future episodes as we share captivating stories, insightful advice, and practical strategies to support our wealthy journey together. If you enjoyed this podcast, please don't hesitate to return next week where there will be another amazing, brilliant, and absolutely captivating guest to speak on what it takes to build your own path to wealth and success. Thank you for tuning in to the Wealthy Women Conversations podcast. Stay focused, determined, and strive for the wealthy life you desire. Until next time, I'll see you on the wealthy side.